All right, guys, joining me now is John Cisna. This is the man that I've been hyping up for the last couple of minutes. This is the guy that has accomplished, I think, my dream accomplishment, being able to eat McDonald's nonstop and still lose weight. And not just lose like 4 or 5 pounds. You lost 56 pounds?
Well, yes, almost 60 pounds by
Almost
the time it was
60
over.
pounds.
Yep.
Eating McDonald's for 6 months straight. How many meals?
Well, it was actually 540 straight meals at the Golden Arches. 6 months of my life.
Wow. Okay, so let's just do some background. I know a lot of our viewers are already chiming in, asking questions. Firstly, I guess the big question that multiple people have already asked is why? Why did you do this? How did you come up with this idea?
Well, actually, I'm a science teacher. And in my sophomore biology class, the kids can pick any subject they want as long as it revolves around the biological science, and then they have to pick a hypothesis. And then using the scientific method, they've got to either prove or disprove that hypothesis.
Okay.
So I had this idea, and I went to
Right.
3 of the kids and said, hey, how about this hypothesis? Is it possible for a person to become better off eating nothing but McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 90 days? And they loved the idea, and that's how it got started.
Wow. So that was it. And then you were the test dummy.
I was the guinea pig.
The lab rat.
Well, and a lot of people say, why'd you pick yourself? That's kind of self-serving, isn't it? Well, I mean, imagine this a little bit. How would you like this letter going home to your folks? Dear Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I would like to use your fat son in an experiment. You see, and I was actually the perfect specimen for it. I mean, I weighed 280 pounds.
Uh-huh.
I had a 51-inch waist. My cholesterol was 249. My triglycerides, you can see from the picture there, was 156, and my LDL, those bad lipids, they
Right.
were 170. I wore a size 48 pant, so I was the perfect person. As you can see from that picture on the left, that, man, I couldn't have gotten much bigger.
Wow.
Now, the neat thing about this experiment, which people don't realize, is that I didn't choose my food. But I gave the kids 2 parameters. Number 1, they had to keep me on a 2,000-calorie diet, which, that's fine.
Right.
But the thing that turned this to gold is that I made the kids track 15 different nutrients, and they had to try to keep those in line with the recommended daily allowances that the Food and Drug Administration
What grade
put
are
together.
these students?
These are sophomores in high school.
Sophomores in high school.
Because you see, we didn't know what we were doing. And we thought, okay, what litmus test are we going to use to determine whether this hypothesis is true? And we thought, well, the Food and Drug Administration must know. And so we set all of our goals on those nutrients based on what the Food and Drug Administration put together. And the kids...
Based on a 2,000-calorie diet,
2,000-calorie diet.
Typically what you see on the side of anything you
Absolutely.
purchase at the grocery store.
And what was cool about this, in the 90 days, the first 90 days of the experiment, the kids put together 56 different combinations of foods.
So you never
from
got
McDonald's.
bored?
Oh, man, I couldn't have gotten bored. That was hard enough to
Well,
eat
it's
as it
an
was.
extensive menu, and I love McDonald's, but I never really stray too much from like my usual.
Uh-huh.
So it would be interesting. So you really just had the variety. You've pretty much had everything on the McDonald's menu, I'm guessing.
We had quite a bit of things. Now, it's impossible to have all 133 items, but,
Over the course of 6 months, though?
well, over the course of 6 months, and it's still some of the things I just didn't like.
Okay.
Some of them I said
Fair
to the kids,
enough.
hey, I just don't like those. Let's don't include those.
So what
But-
were your what were the things you loved?
Well, the things I've fallen in love with. In fact, I
We
brought you...
have a whole
yes,
feast of McDonald's here,
I
guys.
brought you... Now,
My dream.
I've been off the experiment for about 14 months now, but I still eat McDonald's every day. Now,
Okay.
not 3 meals, but I brought you in some of my favorite that I
Okay.
love. I have fallen in love with this fruit oatmeal. It's got the oatmeal in it. They put apples, raisins,
Oh, wow.
cranberries, and that is just... And it's called a low glycemic carbohydrate.
And they only serve this for breakfast.
No, you can get it 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. And what makes this unique, it's called a low glycemic carbohydrate, which means it stays with you longer.
Yeah, no, they always encourage eating oatmeal. Like every dietitian's always like, start your day off with oatmeal.
And that's why. So there's the, in fact, I had that today before I came on for the show in Fox. And my other favorite that I've fallen in love with, and we stumbled on this because
Yeah.
the kids used to give me Egg McMuffins. Well, when we ate the Egg McMuffins, they were finding that one of the categories for the goals we had set
Yeah.
were the cholesterol was running a little high.
See, what's interesting is also McDonald's always puts all of the nutritional facts on the wrappers.
Well-
so you can kind of also gauge.
Well, you want to hear the really cool story. So at first when I put this, that's yours. What's really cool is that when I put this together, I thought, okay, this is going to be tough for the kids because they're going to have to get on the internet and look up 15 different nutrients of everything they feed me. So I'm messing around on the internet the first day of the project, and I go to McDonald's website, and they have a thing called My Menu Builder. Oh my goodness. If you go to www.mcdonalds.com and then click on My Menu Builder, you can click on any single food that they have at McDonald's, and you click on that, all the nutritional information will pop up. Go to My Menu Builder.
I'm going to pull this up so our viewers can see what we're looking at. So
okay.
Where is it?
It's going to be My Menu Builder. Where are you at?
Oh, right here, My Meal Builder.
There you go. Click on that. All right. View the full menu. Now, click on any one of those sandwiches. Click on it.
Oh, which one?
Any one you want.
Big
Doesn't make any
Mac.
difference. There you go. And now click on nutrition and ingredients information. Look at that. All of the nutritional information pops up right there for the kids. So I'm pretty good.
So they were relying on this a lot, this
Absolutely,
tool.
because these are the actual nutritional ingredients that McDonald's was kind of ahead of everybody else, and they did this before it was even required.
Yeah.
So now the kids use this, and I'm pretty good with the spreadsheet, so I put a spreadsheet together, we put on the shared Google Drive, and now all the kids just had to cut and paste, and when they stick the items in there, down below it totals up, and they knew if they were too high in a category, well, they had to go find another food.
So what was one of your, let's create one of your healthy meals? What would I click on typically?
Okay.
Probably this artisan grilled sandwich?
Well, they didn't have that back then,
Okay.
but I'll give you an average day to show people that if you use your head, 2,000 calories goes a long way.
Right.
They would feed me for breakfast 2 egg white delights, a bowl of oatmeal, and a 1% milk.
So this is the egg white delight,
That's
right?
the egg white delight, and they'd give me 2 of those. Okay.
This is the egg white delight. You have the egg McMuffin.
And it's just
and
like
cheese.
an egg McMuffin, but there's no yolk in it.
Right.
So it cut down my cholesterol numbers from what I was looking for. Now, and they might, instead one day, they might give me one of those and maybe the burrito, breakfast burrito. And then at lunch, they would alternate between the Southwest salad, which I brought one of those in, or the bacon and ranch salad, which they have those back in Iowa. And
Right,
they
because
would,
you know what? That's actually another interesting thing, that McDonald's, based on the region and based on the country you are, very different menu items. I actually, every single foreign country I've traveled to, it's a prerequisite that I go to McDonald's. In every foreign place. We were just talking about it on your air yesterday afternoon on air. When I was in Japan for 10 hours, I went to 2 places, McDonald's and Starbucks.
yeah. In fact,
But I'm in Japan. Shouldn't I be eating Japanese food? No, I wanted to.
you wanted the taste of America.
I wanted to know what it tasted like.
Now, when I was in Hawaii, one of the cool things in Hawaii is that for the breakfast, coming with all the breakfast are pineapple chunks, and they have a thing called a fried banana pie.
Oh my gosh.
Which is to die for. Now, with those salads then, almost every day, they would give me the fruit and yogurt parfait. Now, this is low-fat yogurt with blueberries and strawberries, and they've got granola to put on top.
Mm-hmm.
And they would also give me 2 bags of their apples. Now, we're only breakfast and lunch, and we've already got quite a bit of food. And then at night, they would feed me one of the value meals. So what was cool, I had Big Macs, quarter pounders of cheese, double cheeseburgers. I had ice cream cones.
So you got to eat all of the good stuff still. It was just about how much of it you were consuming.
Exactly. And that's what this experiment has shown. You know, when you looked at that picture, I've been obese most of my adult life, and I'm not proud to say that, but I have. And I've always pointed the finger of somewhere else of why I've been obese. But you know the irony behind this?
What's that?
In those 25 years that I look like that picture there on the left, I hardly ate fast food. It wasn't a part of my diet.
So what was it? Just
I got-
eating too much?
At the grocery store and at sit-down restaurants. And isn't it ironic that I spend 6 months of my life eating nothing but fast food and end up going from Moby Dick to Flipper? I mean, that's what is just incredible about this. And now I've incorporated that I utilize fast food because I've realized there is nothing wrong with food. There is no such thing as an unhealthy food. The thing that makes a food unhealthy is the quantity of it that you eat. And that's what this experiment has shown. It's not where you eat.
Right.
It's what you eat.
Oh, absolutely. Right. They always say you are what you eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I know there's so many. I haven't even looked at the chat window. I see due to high volume content, so many people have been chiming in. I'm going to scroll up to the top because I know
Wow, there's a lot of questions there.
Right.
Okay.
There's a lot of people. I think someone said you were accomplishing the American dream. I think I saw that at one point.
Well, I tell people I had the easy part. All I had to do is eat the food. The kids had the complicated part because they had to put together the items to keep me under the categories we set it at.
I want to know what they're all saying. So Rachel's saying, okay, so how did you nutritionally choose these items? You did kind of elaborate on that. The
Yeah.
students did.
And the students did it all. But again, they had to balance that between the 2,000 calories, but I made them stay in line. Here's a neat story. When we started eating the higher caloric type sandwiches, they said, well, Mr. Cisna, we've got a problem. Because if we're going to feed you a double quarter pounder meal.
Sounds delicious.
Well, and actually, I can't even eat one of those anymore. But they said, if we're going to do that, we can't stay at 2,000 calories and keep the nutritional information in line. And I said, kids, that's where choice comes in. So what are you going to do? Are you going to keep the nutritional information in line and lower the calories? Or are you going to get me up to the 2,000 calories and blow the nutritional stuff out of the water? And on those days, the kids made the choice, okay, we're going to stay within the parameters, but you're not getting 2,000 calories that day, Mr. Cisna. And that was neat about this. And now here's the teacher coming up across to me.
Right.
The one thing that we have lost the ability to do is use critical thinking skills to determine choice not only in food, but everyday living. These kids had to use a critical choice. This gall-darn internet. The kids today, whatever they read, see, or hear on the internet, they automatically take for gospel. Without ever using skills.
Because everything on the internet is true.
Yeah, and without trying to decide. You know, my favorite phrase I like to quote, Mark Twain once said, a person who doesn't read the newspaper is uninformed. The person who does read the newspaper is misinformed.
I've heard that.
And you know, if Mark was alive today, he'd just substitute that word newspaper for internet.
Twitter.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Right.
happened. So this was a great experiment. And once people start hearing this, they realize this isn't about McDonald's. This isn't about me. This is about teaching kids to use skills, critical skills, to determine what is the right choice and what is the wrong choice.
Wow. Wow. How many times a day, Susan Ward wanted to know?
How many times at McDonald's?
Yeah.
3 times. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we never deviated. And the kids never said, okay, order a Big Mac without the sauce. We kept everything right
The
there.
same. You never modified any of them.
No. And a lot of people say, was I on any medication? No. Now, here is what put this thing worldwide, all right? After 90 days, I lost 37 pounds. My cholesterol went from 249 to 170. My triglycerides went from 156 to 80, and my LDL, those bad lipids, went from 170 to 113, all eating what Morgan Spurlock has convinced the world is bad for you.
Wow.
And that's what caused this to go absolutely viral.
PFC Ebersol, what kind of foods did he eat from there and caloric count average daily? So you did say it, you had a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when they had to, abide by these guidelines, it was a 2,000 calorie diet. Obviously, things don't just always add up to 2,000
Correct.
calories exactly. So was it sometimes 1,900, sometimes 2,100 kind of thing?
And it was impossible to hit every single nutritional information right on the nut.
Right.
But their point was try to get as close as possible to your goals. And you know what? People say, well, what do you recommend for me? Well, first of all, I'm not a doctor. I don't recommend anything. I recommend them to see a doctor. But if you'll put a plan together and follow the plan just like we did, you're guaranteed to become better off.
Right.
Just pick a plan and stay with it. It's as simple as that. 2 weeks when I came back from New York and I was on the Today Show with Matt Lauer and the whole
Right.
bit, one of my 7th graders said it best. We came back and she said, Mr. Cisna, we don't understand this. Isn't what you and the sophomores did nothing more than common sense? Oh my gosh, I've got 7th graders that have this figured out, and that's what I'm doing now. I travel across the country telling this story, this simple story, an experiment of choice. And hopefully we can educate people and let them know there's nothing wrong with fast food. What's wrong is our choices that we're making while we're there.
Because I think a lot of people automatically think, well, if I'm going to eat fast food anyways, I might as well go all the way. I might as well indulge. I might as well get, the double quarter pounder and the supersized fry and this. Like, they don't realize you can just get it because it's quick and available and easy, and you don't have to eat everything.
That's right.
I love the McDouble. I talk about the McDouble a lot here on air, and it's almost a double cheeseburger with one less slice of cheese.
Right.
But it's I think 380, 390 calories. A lot of protein. I'm good.
Yeah, and what people don't realize, for the viewers out there that are listening to this, I want them to envision in their mind what they think. Pick any fast food store and think of any item that they think is bad for you. All right, now they've got that in the back of their mind. Mm-hmm. I want them to tell me what piece of that item does your body not need? It needs everything, but it doesn't need it in excess. You take a look at a finely tuned athlete. The athletes don't deprive themselves of a food group. They eat all the food groups
Right.
in a right combination for them.
Right.
And so, and what I found out in this throughout it is that people don't understand, like, if you want to lose weight, you have to eat to lose weight, because if you don't, your body's going to go into a starvation mode and won't allow you to do it.
Right, and then it affects your metabolism, it gets slower, all that.
Yep.
Jonathan Blinn wants to know, John, do you think the McRib will ever be a permanent menu item? I love the McRib, do you?
Well, you've got to remember, I'm not an employee of McDonald's. I don't know that information, so they're asking the wrong person that. They're going to have to ask their McDonald's rep that type of question.
Halala426, was it expensive? How did it impact your monthly food budget?
Oh, great question. Now, you got to remember, I was a school teacher. So when we came up with this idea, I actually approached one of the owner-operators from McDonald's, and I told him what we were doing. I said, look, I'm a teacher. I said, can you help me out with this?
Right.
And he was so interested in finding out what the results were, he went ahead and took care of all the bills for this.
Wow.
So I didn't have to pay anything.
Wow.
And funny story, and this is what I tell people gave validity to the experiment. Corporate McDonald's knew nothing about this. In fact, the first time they knew anything about this was when they saw me on the Today Show with Matt Lauer.
Oh, wow.
And that's when people understand that McDonald's didn't have a tie-in with this, it gave validity to the experiment, because they realized this isn't a McDonald's ploy.
Right.
And again, this experiment's not about McDonald's. It's about
Lifestyle.
teaching lifestyle changes and using critical skills to make the right choices, period.
Savannah has a good question. What did your doctor say?
Great question. When I first approached my doctor, as a matter of fact, one thing that the viewers, if they go to my Twitter account, it's just @John Cisna. There's a tweet down there. We've made our own documentary.
Oh.
And when I did it as a teacher, before I knew what was going on, I did my own filming. It was like Les Stroud and Survivor Man. I filmed every day. And so a professional company came in, took some of my old vintage stuff,
Right.
and they went in, they interviewed my doctor, the superintendent, the kids. We've got a 19-minute documentary that we want to put in every school across the country, not in place of Super Size Me, but put it right next to it. So again, kids can have the choice. They can
Right.
see for themselves why Morgan Spurlock's results came out, why he did, why our results came out. But back to your question about the doctor. So when I first approached my doctor, he was really skeptical until I told him the parameters that what we were doing. And once I did, he said, this is a great idea, because he's always preached calories in, calories out.
Right.
Just watch it. So he actually enjoyed, and watching the blood work, as I'd have his lab, do all the blood work. He was all behind it.
That's so cool. John Hoffman says, he proves McDonald's doesn't make you fat, you make yourself fat.
Oh, you know what? And we took a movie camera around the school, and before we did it, we wanted to see what the kids' idea was, if this hypothesis could be true.
Right.
And one kid said, well, Cisna's basically an idiot. Now, we did the same thing when the experiment was over, when we announced all the results. That same kid said almost that same comment. He said, this experiment shows us that it's not McDonald's that makes us fat. It's our choices of what we eat that make us fat.
Right.
And I think that hit it right on the head.
And I think it's so important that especially sophomores in high school are doing this experiment, because it really trains you. Because, I mean, I know I was guilty of it sophomore year in high school, junior high school. Sometimes lunch would literally be a bottle of Dr. Pepper and a bag of chips.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'll take this money that I got from my parents for lunch and just go and buy some junk food. And that literally is what so many teenagers eat for lunch.
Well, and it is. And again, I have a lot of people say, hey, where can I get a copy of your menu? I don't give that out, because it's important that people understand this is not a diet I'd ever recommend. Because a diet of fast food, first of all, isn't viable, and it's not real life.
Right.
You'd never do that. And to tell you how goofy...
Because, I mean, you couldn't...
No.
I mean, it affects things socially. If you have any sort of social engagement or function or party or dinner or whatever it is, lunch, you just have to sit there and not eat and watch other people eat, so you can just go get your...
You mean like I had to do on Thanksgiving? Because the experiment lasted from September 15th to December 15th, the first part. So Thanksgiving at the Cisna house is a big deal. We have everybody over.
Right.
So, they've got all the trimmings. Well, my Thanksgiving lunch was a Filet-O-Fish sandwich, a small French fry, a side salad, and a Diet Coke. That's what I had for my Thanksgiving meal.
Hey, that's not a bad... They love this. Can this guy be my daughter's teacher? Rachel is saying.
Well, but you know what? And this is one of the things that if you have never taught school, You have no idea what a hard job that is. And experiments like this, when you get them out of the textbook,
Right.
and let them do hands-on thing and think for themselves, let them discover for themselves to come up with the answer, this is great education right here. And, I'd recommend this for any teacher. And this kind of project could work in math, science, social studies,
Right.
anything. Pick a subject they're good at, and maybe you're not going to do a hypothesis, but let them go off and find out something for themselves. It was a wonderful project.
This is amazing. I want to see what other people are chiming in with.
Boy, there's a ton of questions.
A lot
on
of
here.
people talking about just oatmeal in general. Joe Foley, are food outlets now required to show calorie counts on their menus in America? Joe Foley's out in the UK. Yes, Joe, it has become mandatory.
It has, and again, once people become cognizant of what they're eating, that's what was kind of fun about this experiment. I mean, since I've been off the experiment, I become more cognizant of the calorie counts of foods.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to different restaurants, perceptions I had before of, there's not that many calories in that, but now that I look at them, I realize, wow, I didn't realize there were that many calories in that.
Right.
And, for the first time, I tell people, I can eat any food that I want now. My wife and I, back in Des Moines, there's a great restaurant called Spaghetti Market.
Mm-hmm.
And Spaghetti Market has this cheesecake that's to absolutely die for. And there's got to be at least 700 calories in this cheesecake.
Just don't eat it all. Share.
I have a piece every time I go. I
All
eat
to yourself?
every bit because I have learned to make accommodations throughout the
So
day.
you ate a salad.
That'll
for your
allow me
meal.
to have that. Example, I went out to dinner last night. I knew I was going out to dinner, so I cut down the calories of my breakfast and lunch that would allow me to have that. I enjoy every food now, and I do it guilt-free because I have learned how to do it. And if people would just understand that you could enjoy every food the way it was meant to be and still become better off for yourself. Get to a doctor, put a plan together, stick with it. Don't weigh yourself every day like I did in the experiment, because some days you'll say, it was great, and step on the scale, you weigh 3/4 of a pound more.
That's just water weight, guys.
Yeah, right. Right. So it was a great experience, and I love doing what I'm doing. The response, when I first start with my presentation, I ask them how many have seen Supersize Me. Almost every hand goes up all the time. Mm-hmm. And when I get done explaining this, I say, now, how many of you have a little bit different view of fast food than before we started? Every hand goes up in the auditoriums all the time. And that's what makes this worth the time. It's making a difference. We could really, really put a big dent in this obesity problem if we would educate people about it rather than pointing fingers at the fast food. Every time we do that, that enables people like me to blame somebody else for me not being able to control my weight. McDonald's never made me fat. Burger King didn't. You know what made me fat?
You.
I made me fat. And now that I've learned that, I don't have to point a finger someplace else. The finger's pointed right here, and by golly, I enjoy eating again.
Oh my gosh! We're playing this video that you guys shot.
Yeah, that was back in the restaurant in Nevada, Iowa, which is about 2 miles from where we were. This is part, by the way, of the documentary we put together. So if you
cool.
go to my Twitter, this will give you the link. It's 19 minutes long, and it goes into detail. It interviews the superintendent, the kids, my doctor, my wife. Gives the aspect of what she thought about the project.
Did she join you in the McDonald's indulgence?
She didn't, but here's a cool story. When this was all over, the president of McDonald's flew myself, the 3 kids of the experiment, and their mothers up to Hamburger University. Now, the mothers were not fans of McDonald's. By the time they came back, they said if more people could see the time and care McDonald's puts into making sure their foods are safe and healthy, they said this would turn everything around, and they are now McDonald's fans because they have seen what goes into producing all this McDonald's stuff. And, in the last 8 months that I've been traveling, it's amazing what I'm seeing. And I never had any idea that McDonald's was this type of company but it really is a great organization. The people are wonderful. The owner-operators are wonderful.
Right.
It's truly a great family organization.
So I have a question. You had 540 straight meals at McDonald's?
That's right.
What was your next meal? What was meal 541?
Well,
like, that's important to know.
You'll love this.
Okay.
So when it was all over, my wife took. We have a seafood place up in Ankeny called Waterfront Seafood. I don't know if I can say that on air, but I just did. It's a great place, and I love seafood. Now remember, after 540 meals, my palate had developed different tastes.
Right.
So I love salmon. So when I ordered salmon, some steamed broccoli, a key lime pie for dessert. When I took the first bite of salmon, my mouth started uncontrollably watering, and the waitress started laughing. My wife I couldn't keep the saliva from going down, but that was just the shock of the time, and I thought that was funny. After 546 months eating nothing but McDonald's, and then all of a sudden I get that in there, and it's like the mouth was going, oh my goodness, what am I tasting?
Wow. I want to check in with our viewers again. Jonathan Blinn saying, when I visited Sydney in March 2006, McDonald's burgers there are much smaller. Oh, that's an interesting point. Bob Frank, very true. I lost 60 pounds and ate what I wanted, just in smaller amounts. So agreeing with your
yep, very similar.
Joe Foley, but surely if you want a Big Mac, you want a Big Mac. Does it really help by putting the calories there on the wrapper?
Well, it helps only if you're going to be cognizant of what you're putting in your body. Now remember, I was on 2,000 calories. Now I'm 56 years old. I don't need the 5,000 and 6,000 calories I used to eat when I was playing college baseball. But for everybody, it depends on what your goals are. If you're somebody that's very active, that's younger, no, you don't have to watch the calories because you're going to be burning off so much it's not a factor. But as you get older, believe me, that metabolism slows down. And that was one of the things that got me in the situation I was before. I'd still eat the same amount of calories, but my output was going down drastically, and it was all going to my stomach.
Wow, let's see. Radar Love saying Morgan was eating supersized stuff, wasn't he?
Well, and that's, as a teacher, I would never show supersize in my classroom because even before I got involved in this, I never saw the educational value behind supersize me. I mean, so a guy stuffs himself uncontrollably. And what I tell people is the similarity between Morgan and myself is this. Morgan Spurlock and John Cisna could have done these experiments at any restaurant in the world.
Right.
Our results would have been similar because of the choices that we were making.
Right.
Morgan would have put on weight no matter where he ate. I would have taken off weight no matter where we ate because of the decisions we were making and the choices. So, so that's why, again, when I first did the documentary on my own, I was so mad. I wanted to get Supersize Me out of the classroom and replace it with mine. But now after I've traveled, since this is a message about choice, I want them to make the choices. Do you want to make the choices like Morgan did, or do you want to make the choices like we did at Colonesco? That's what this is about. This isn't force-feeding somebody. It's letting them make the choices for themselves.
Right. Let's see. I'm still quite behind on this chat. Bob Frank, I love the McRib too. Why is it limited?
You know what? Again, you're going to have to ask the McDonald's people that. I don't know. Periodically, they bring new things in as test markets. I don't know the parameters behind it. Right. And that's what's tough for people to understand. They ask me a lot of questions about corporate, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't work for them.
I do try and test food, though. Bakersfield, California, for example, is a great test market, and I used to drive a lot between Los Angeles and Fresno, where my parents were, and I would always stop in Bakersfield just to find out what the latest test experiment was. They had this one, cheeseburger, but it was like a crunchy cheeseburger. It had crispy onions and white cheddar, and it was like the Chipotle cheeseburger or something. It was...
Yeah, they do a lot of testing, and you know what's incredible too. And when you look at you're in wonderful shape, and you eat McDonald's a lot. But when I went to corporate office, corporate office in Chicago, they've got a McDonald's right there. They all eat there every day.
Right.
They all look like you. They do, and they've eaten there for years. It's about the choices, that's right, and they love it. They get in line and they have those things, but it's intelligent choices that they're making. They're not ordering. They're not ordering 2 Big Macs. So
were you always drinking water there then?
Well, I drank water. I drank a ton of water. I drank a lot of iced tea, and yes, I drank Diet Coke. The one thing that you've got to remember that obviously when you have foods like this, it has high sodium content as well.
Right, and I think one of the viewers had pointed that out as well.
Yeah, and and I personally don't have a sensitivity to salt. But people that do, I feel bad for them because they've got to watch it so much. But I was smart enough to understand, even though I didn't have a sensitivity to it, that your body has an innate ability to get rid of excess salts if you give it an avenue to do so, through sweating or urinating. So I drank I drank at least a gallon of water a day, a lot of iced tea. I would have to go to the bathroom in between classes. But that was the thing that I gave my body the ability. When I was on the Today Show, Joy Bauer, their nutritionist, she was concerned about the high salt content, and I hadn't stopped to think about it. So from that point on, I actually had my electrolytes checked. I had all 3 ions checked, the sodium, the potassium, and the chloride. At the end of 540 meals of eating all fast food, all 3 of those electrolytes, or those ions, were right smack dab in the middle. But remember, for me it worked. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have salt sensitivity. And that's another reason I don't want people going out and replicating this. This was an experiment, folks. I would never recommend this diet for anybody ever. And to tell you the truth, I don't know whether I could do it again. But it just.
But you still eat McDonald's every day.
But I don't eat 3 meals.
Right.
And the reason I do is because I like that breakfast. I like that egg white delight. I like the oatmeal.
Right.
It stays with me. I don't get hungry till 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
And the apples.
And so that's
your typical breakfast is this.
That and the egg white delight right here. In fact, I had that this morning before I was on the Fox show. And I have that almost every day. Now, the only thing is it doesn't taste quite as good because now I have to pay for it.
Oh man, how much is oatmeal?
290 calories.
290. But is it what, like $2?
I think it's $1.99 or
$1.99.
something like that. It's not real expensive.
Let's see. What are people saying?
Boy, there's a lot of people, a lot of questions.
PFC Ebersol, would he be willing to do 30 days of MRE diets?
Well, I don't. What is an MRE diet?
That's what I need to know. I'm not sure.
I have, and first of all, at this point, I'm not willing to do any other diet because I have found that what works for me. And that's what I'm hoping people across the country, they'll find something that works for them. Mm-hmm. Everybody, we have different physiologies, you and I.
Right.
And everybody on this that's listening to this, they all have different physiologies, and what is right for one body isn't necessarily going to be right for another one. So I'm not willing to go on any other diet. I've found the key to what works for me. I have been fat for 25 years of my life. I've never been able to keep off weight. And obviously, I don't weigh 280 pounds anymore.
Again, this is the
And so this
transformation.
I've been able to keep it off, and first time ever.
Wow.
First time ever.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I just want to show our viewers this image once more, just in case you need a reminder. So 6 months, 180 days.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So did you also, okay, this isn't one question. I'm assuming exercise also played a role in this?
It played a small role. We knew that when you put a good health program together, it consists of good diet and moderate exercise. Mm-hmm. I did nothing in those 90 days but walked 45 minutes a day, 4 to 5 days a week. And when you watch the documentary we put together, here I am being an ex-jock thinking, well, walking 45 minutes is going to be a piece of cake. The first day, I couldn't make it.
Wow.
I was mentally crushed because here I am, and I didn't realize how much.
Was it actual walking outside, or was it okay?
After football practice, I would walk around the track, and after about the 30th minute, I started getting cramps, and I couldn't make it. And what's funny about that documentary is that it's showing me at the end of that exercise period, I'm trying to be as positive as I possibly can, and you can see in there that it's just I was struggling. So, but I got through it. I kept up with it, and made it the whole 90 days.
Wow. Real quick, they did clarify MRE is military food. Savannah and Bob say.
Again, I'm not familiar with the military food, but again, find out what's in the military food, and whatever your calorie count is, whatever your nutritional count is, just eat it accordingly. And that's the whole purpose of this experiment, man. Just find out and eat what's right for you. But don't go overboard, and let's quit blaming the food industry for our obesity problem. It's not it. As a recovering foodaholic, and that's what I am now, I tell people, our addiction is different than that of an alcoholic or a drug addict. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if Alcoholics Anonymous used this philosophy and they said, now, John, you've been drinking 12 beers a day. That's bad. You need to make sure you only drink 2 to 3 a day. But see, that's what we have to do as recovering foodaholics. We have to learn to moderate our addiction.
Right.
And if you've never been through that, it's hard. I have good days, I have bad days. But now I've learned that when I have a bad day, I know that tomorrow's the first day of the rest of my life, and I get a chance to do it again. And attitude is so important when you're trying to make lifestyle changes like this. And once you get on top of that, you got it whipped.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for stopping by News Now and sharing your story and answering all of our viewer questions. And if there are any more questions, drinking water is tough after a while
That's
because it
what's
gets boring.
well. What's tough is going to the bathroom every 40 minutes. That's what's even tougher.
There it is, Rachel. Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm a foodaholic. Foodaholics Anonymous.
I'll tell you what, and there's hundreds of thousands of people out there, and that's what keeps me going. You know, I travel all the time, but you know, I left the business world to come back to teaching because I wanted to make a difference. I didn't think I was in the business world, and I had in those 2 years, but you know, it makes a huge difference. I want people to now enjoy life the way I do again. And it's so easy. And I know there's millions of people out there like me that are looking for an answer for their obesity problem. And I'm telling you, this is the answer. The answer is to get your plan, stick with it, and run through it. It'll work. And I just want everybody else to feel the same joy in life now that I do.
That's awesome, John. So again, for viewers who are interested in seeing this documentary, just go ahead and find John on Twitter. It's at John Cisna.
At John Cisna, and about the 5th tweet down, you'll see a link that'll take you right to the documentary.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by. And guys, I'm just going to show you this image one more time in case you need a reminder of just how beneficial this plan was for John. John, thanks again for stopping by.
Oh, appreciate the invite.
All right, guys, we were just working to get Ron back up here. We'll be back in